This is just volume 1 of 12, and this is just the commentary from Matthew and Mark. But here's a little section on what the commentary says about this passage that we read today, when the angel calls Jesus the crucified one. Comments say, you're looking for the crucified one, the angel says, but he's not here, he's risen. This is what the commentary says, if you would allow me. The perfect participle used by the angel describes Jesus as the crucified one. Now, since the Greek perfect tense indicates a completed act with ongoing consequences, Jesus' crucifixion was not a temporary episode in the career of the Son of God, who passed the night nullified, transcended, or exchanged into resurrection for heavenly glory. Even as the risen one bears the mark of himself, even on the cross as a permanent character and call to discipleship. How's that? It's true. It's a great explanation, isn't it? But could you imagine if this was our Easter song? Since the Greek perfect tense indicates a completed act with ongoing consequences in the career of the Son of God, passed and exchanged and resurrection for heavenly glory. Doesn't work so well, does it? Why? Because Easter is a time for exclamation and not explanation. There's so much effort in the world today, in our society. There's so much effort that goes into framing the issue. Framing the issue. Your favorite politician frames the issue. Your favorite media outlet frames the issue. Your favorite shoe company, and I have one, frames the issue. Everywhere we go in the world today, the issue is about framing the issue and much less about the truth. And the premise is that perception is reality. And if we, the public, can be made to believe what the person talking to us is telling us, then we will vote for it, buy it, eat it, drink it, do it, etc. The truth is much less important. Well, what's so wonderful about Easter is that there's no framing of the issue. There is no framing of the issue. When the angel descends, it's as though he says to Mary and Mary Magdalene, I'm not going to try to analyze this. I'm not going to try to persuade you with proofs and logic and reasoning. I'm just going to tell you what happened. And you know what? You're not going to believe me. You're not. Because you're going to have to suspend everything you know and understand about how the world works for this to make any sense to you. But it's true. That's all I'm going to tell you. In exclamation mark form, the truth. Easter is not about proving the possibility of the resurrection. It's not about a day to persuade the skeptics. When the Christians in Corinth were visiting with the Apostle Paul, they were grilling him on the details of the resurrection. Did he really do it? Did he really die? Did he really come back to life? Did he come back to life in bodily form or just in spiritual form? When we die, what kind of bodies are we going to have when we rise? Over and over. And finally, in chapter 15 in 1 Corinthians, verse 51, Paul just says, look, it's a mystery. The first thing that Paul says about the resurrection, he says, it is a mystery. The explanation of the resurrection of Easter is always going to be somewhat mysterious. But Paul follows that up right after that in verse 52 and says, but it is God's will that that which is dead live again. That which is dark now be shown in light. It is God's will that that is immortal, that which is mortal now become immortal. That the door that is closed now become open. That's what Easter does for us. There is a time for explanation. There's most definitely a time to discuss the how, the what, the when, the where, the why. There is a time for study and debate and dialogue and discussion, but not today, not on Easter. Because the real meaning of Easter lies in what it exclaims. exclaims is that for all of us, and maybe that day for you is today, but for all of us, there will be a time when we are like Mary and Mary Magdalene, when we're walking in sadness, when we're walking in despair, when we're walking in pain, when we're walking in uncertainty, and wondering who will roll away the stone for us. How will I ever overcome this obstacle in my path? How will I ever find the way forward? And God knows that on days like those, we do not need explanation. We do not need someone saying to us, well, you know, the reason why you got into this mess is blah, 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 blah. We don't need someone to tell us the size of the obstacle is only directly proportional to the amount of effort you can levy against it. No, God knows that what we need on days like that is an exclamation mark. We need to hear, don't worry. Don't be afraid. Keep going. I am with you. I am here. Keep on keeping on. I will find you. No obstacle will keep me from reaching you. No situation will prevent me from finding you. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday, because today is a day for starting over. Exclamation mark. That's what Easter gives us. So as you go forth today, on whatever road is out there for you to walk down, I want to give you something. I want to give you an exclamation mark to take with you. Make 280 of these. Not framed, you got to supply the frame. I frame mine. I'm going to put it on my desk where I can see it. But as you leave today, we have one of these exclamation marks for you, and we want you to take it with you and put it somewhere where you can see it. And every time you see it, just remember, let that exclamation mark stand for all of the emotion and all of the emphasis that God wants to give you when you remember the exclamation of Easter. Jesus lives! Exclamation mark. There is hope! Exclamation mark. For you! Exclamation mark. Always! Exclamation mark.